Hi and welcome to Dramatic Knits. My name is Steve, also known as Dramatic Knits, and today is Sunday, January 5th, 2020. This is episode 346. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back one more episode, and if you're new, I hope you enjoy this episode and you'll join us in the future and maybe check out some of our past episodes. So, welcome to 2020. That's crazy that we are, emerging into the third decade, really, into the new millennium. And, it's crazy. Yay for 2020 and achieving new goals and all that fun stuff. I never set New Year's resolutions. It's another day in my life, and I cannot tell you, I think when we went to New York in 2015, was the last time I actually stayed up to watch midnight roll in. Usually I'm in bed prior to midnight, and this year was no different. I think I rolled over at about 11 o'clock, so I did make it to East Coast time. But anyway, I hope the new year is treating you all well, and that you are getting a lot of crafting done, and you got all of your holiday gifts done if you were doing that, and if you didn't, no worries. No one knows it better other than you, right? So let's get into things, shall we? I have a lot of things to show and talk about. I have some finished objects, some work in progress. I have lots of prizes to draw for. I have some stash enhancement, some plans. I do want to go over, speaking of the new year, I've watched other podcasters do this throughout the years, and I've never partaken. So I thought maybe I would go over a little recap of my 2019 in terms of crafting. I actually took a little time during my lunch break today. Yes, I was working on a Sunday. It's normal for us. But I did take a lunch break, and I was doing some computer work, and so I decided to tally up some totals for 2019 in terms of crafting. And I thought it was kind of cool to look back. I do have everything, all my projects classified by year. They're tagged by the year, and then I have the tabs at the top of my project page. So if you're ever interested, you could look back by the year. But so in 2019, I knit a total of 13,675 yards. And I think I've done better than that before. I feel like I've brought a lot of new crafts in, and so that's taken time, and I do a lot of swatching that I don't include. So I do a lot of swatches of our colorways that essentially are about 100 yards-ish each of worsted weight, and I do a couple of those a month, and I don't include those in any of my goals. So 13,675, I don't think that's too bad. I usually try to do if I'm under 10,000, something is probably wrong with me. Spinning was really lacking this year. So I spun 2,058 yards. I spun a total of 6 skeins, and I did 28 ounces, which is about 1.6 pounds, give or take. And so I think most of that is due to the amount of travel that we do now. So other than knitting, I don't take any of my crafts on the road with me. So I would think that I'd have more knitting than I do, but again, I do some of the driving. Andy graciously does a lot of it, but we try to split it some of the times. He's in the other room, so he's probably rolling his eyes right now because he actually turned the TV down for me because he heard me start podcasting and he's watching football, but he can probably turn the TV back on if he wants. It's not that loud that you're going to be picking up on it, I think. So weaving. I started weaving at the end of last year, I believe, and so this year I wove a total of 3,764 yards, and a lot of that comes from, I really love weaving with lace weight, or fingering weight is where I've gone to. In the past year, I have not done anything other than lace or fingering weight. I did weave a total of 4 scarves, and I want to say 2 of them were lace weight and 2 were fingering weight. Yeah. Now let's talk projects. So I told you I spun 6 skeins. I wove 4 scarves. Let's talk about my knitting project. So, as you know, if you've been watching the podcast, I am definitely a shawl/wrap knitter. I love the formation of those projects. I love the feel of them as I'm working on them. Do I wear them? No, but I find good homes for them. I gift them. I do a lot of charity knitting, in which I like to do some of those larger projects for fundraising opportunities. So I knit a total of 5 shawls and 4 wraps. So if you want to include, do the neck torso thing, I did 9 shawls/wraps, and then I did 1 cowl. So next torso projects, I did a total of 10. I knit 2 sweaters this year. I knit the Weekender. I finished that this year, and then I finished the For Fox's Sake. And I think that's all that I knit this year. But I did finish one relatively quickly at the end of last year, so there was that. Socks. I only knit 2 pairs of socks this year. That's crazy. Nobody in Andy's family got socks. Everybody was kind of like, I could tell, a little bit disheartened. His mom was disheartened. So I am planning to have some socks on the needles at all times, because it was kind of an eye-opener that I can't just do shawls all the time. I should have a easy on-the-go project of socks on the needles. I knit 1 blanket. I knit the big 30 skein alpine blanket that I still need to get a picture of at some point. And I just recently did 2 hats. So the majority of my knitting in 2019 was on shawls and wraps, which, some were for my own knitting purposes and some were for shop samples. So again, 5 shawls, 2 sweaters, 2 pairs of socks, 4 wraps, a cowl, a blanket, and 2 hats. Not too bad. I've done better, but I'm not going to complain. So that's kind of my 2019 in a recap. So I thought it was a little eye-opening, and if you don't do that for yourself, maybe give it a shot this past year and see what you did. Maybe then you can set goals for yourself once you're more informed about what you did in the previous year. Am I setting goals for myself? No. The only plan that I have going into 2020 is I want to keep myself at 3 knitting projects on the needles at any given point. One of those will be a pair of socks, as I just said. One of those will always be something out of Leading Men Fiber Arts that will eventually be a shop sample. And one of those projects will be something out of my stash, not out of LMFA yarn. So that's my plan, so that I can continually be working on something that is out of yarn that I purchased to knit. I can continually be working on something out of my own yarn and experiencing that, so that I can be, more well-informed about the shop samples that we have. And then to also have socks, because you can never have too many socks. I almost ran out of socks last week. In fact, I ran out of hand-knit socks last week. Anyway, so that's kind of been my 2019. In terms of the past 2 weeks, Andy and I went back to his hometown in northern Indiana. He is originally from the Elkhart area, and so we always go back for family gatherings, and so we got there last Thursday in the afternoon, and we had family dinner with his mom and brother and sister-in-law and 2 kids, and we kind of hung out, and it was a good evening. And then on Friday we got up and we took our niece and nephew out shopping at the mall, which is where they wanted to go. We've agreed the past couple of years to give them a budget, and they get to go shopping for whatever they want. We feel like it's more useful than getting them something that they are not going to enjoy, or getting them clothes that I used to like to do when they were younger, and then mom not feeling that they fit or not caring for the style and taking them back. And giving them a gift card is, just giving them a gift card. While that's nice, it's also cool to spend some time with them and go shopping, and we always have lunch. And so last year we were in Walt Disney World for the family vacation, and so we had given them a budget and we went shopping at Walt Disney World for things, but the previous 2 years we had actually taken them out. So it works out well for us. This is our 4th year doing that, and they really enjoy it. And so Avery went to Build-A-Bear and got her first Build-A-Bear, which was Build a Unicorn, and she got a little outfit for it. And Alex got some candy and from like a big candy buffet place in the mall, and then he went to the arcade, and then he saved more than half of his money for probably Xbox purchases. So anyway, and then Friday night we went to dinner with his dad at the Essen House, which is a big, huge Amish restaurant that we tend to patronize a lot while we're up there. And then we got up Saturday and we had breakfast because the niece and nephew stayed at Grandma's house, which is where we stay. And so we got up and we went out and had breakfast with Grandma and the 2 kids before we hit the road and came back on Saturday in time for Andy to watch some of the playoffs and bowls or whatever. The ball you play with your foot, the football, here in America at least. Which is what he's watching right now. And so, it is what it is. All right, so that's been my 2 weeks. Other than that, we've just been working and dyeing yarn and I've been doing a lot of computer work, trying to get more and more things updated to the website and things like that. So it's coming to a close. Now I'm just in all the little things that we are adding to the website. Pom-poms are up there now, but like today I was working on making sure all the kits are up there, all the gradients are up there. I do have to eventually get all the sock blanks, and then we have stitch marker sets, and we have project bags and different bags, and my hand woven scarves and other things that need to be. We have some beads that we're going to be putting up in the shop soon, so pretty exciting stuff. So other than that, let's get into what I've been working on the past 2 weeks. I do have a finished object. So I thought that this would come to a close at the end of last episode. I said, I'll finish it, no problem. I was like, the knitting's done. All I've got to do is the finishing work of crocheting these 4 lines up this wrap. No problem. Except crocheting a line up the wrap takes over 2 hours per line. So I had gotten 2 lines done prior to yesterday, and then I had to go to my local yarn store to drop off their monthly subscription of new colorways, and so they had open knitting, so I sat down and I got 1 more row done, 1 more line, and then last night I watched a movie and finished it, and then this morning I blocked it, and that project is The Plaid Please by Amy Miller. I used Rowan Kid Silk Haze in the Cream, Trance, and Candy Girl colorways, knit on a size 6 4mm needle. So I could have blocked it much more narrow, but then it would have been really stretched. So here it is in all of its glory. I'm trying to make sure I'm showing you the right side. And so it is very light. I want to say it's just over 150 grams. It's maybe they're 25 gram balls. So it's like 92 grams maybe, because I think I used 3.5 balls in total. And so it's all stockinette with stripes. And you knit it, and then you use a crochet hook to go in every stitch. Definitely don't want to look too closely at my crochet work with the mohair and the silk and keeping my tension. You can kind of see it's not the best, but it achieves its look from here. So it can be a nice scarf if you wanted it to be like that. It could be a wrap where you actually, shawl pinned it if you wanted it to. You can do one of those and shawl pin it. What I was liking, I tried it on yesterday and I was like, I'm not going to keep it for myself. This will be one of those fundraiser items throughout the year this year. But if you take it and fold it in half and just do a simple tuck scarf, that's what I like. And it's super warm. It's not too heavy because it's really light. It does shed like the dickens. That's the trade-off with the mohair yarn. but it's not too bulky, and it's squishy, and it'll keep you really, really, really warm. So, yeah. If you're looking for a pretty mindless project, I would recommend this. There are a couple different options of yarns you can use. That is not a drop stitch in the middle. That's just an elongated stitch that I've tried to mess with. But so there you go. That's Plaid Please by Amy Miller. That's off the needles. I can't believe I've been working on that like 4 months. I'm like, I used to bang out projects in a couple of episodes, a couple of weeks. All that projects would last me, other than sweaters. Not so much anymore. Okay, so you won't be seeing that one again. Moving on. What's performing? What am I working on? Next up, to be finished soon, is my Riverine, and that's by Teresa Gaffey. I'm using Shibui in 3 of their yarn bases: Pebble, Silk Cloud, and Seema. And I'm pretty close to being done with this. I should have this one done by next episode, I'm hoping. And so this is all knit on the bias, this one, and it's all garter and stockinette using 3 different yarn bases to achieve the different textured looks. And it will be a thin wrap / scarf. So, and I'm knitting this one on a size 5, which is a 3.75 millimeter needle. So I'm finishing up. I got to do one more garter section till I run out of the Seema, which I have this much left on that, which is probably a lot more than I think. And then I can use the Silk Cloud until that's done. And then you bind off and you block it. And the nice thing is, because it's such a simple pattern, you pretty much are knitting this until you run out of yarn. So it is a kind of expensive yarn. I picked this up at a woolen company in St. Charles, Illinois, when we went up there for a trunk show. And, for 50 gram skeins, they are pretty expensive, but it is written to use all of it, which is nice. So you're not left with some leftovers, which, is money unused. So, all right, next up is my Adventuring Wrap by Amba O'Brien. This is using the Leading Men Fiber Arts Showstopper mini skeins in the 2019 It's Not an Advent calendar set. And so I am on color 14 of 25. So I'm over halfway done. And the taco is where I was last episode. So you can see this wrap is knit long ways. And it is simple garter stitch with knit on a slight bias. And it has some eyelet rows in between each color. So again, not going through all the colors, but from where I left off, this is Primordial, and then we went into Shadows in the Trees, then Fortune Teller, then Blue Steel, and I just started Nevermore last night, I think. Yeah, it was last night. So here's what it's looking like so far. And this is knit on a size 5 US 3.75 millimeter needle. I'm using some Indian Lake Artisans swivel needles on a 40-inch cable. And the nice thing is you do have some leftovers of each mini skein. Not as much as last year, I don't feel like. But if you purchase the Adventuring Wrap / scarf, you do get a pattern to use the leftovers for a cowl, which I will be using knitting after this to show that you can knit both projects. The version I'm doing also, you can add fringe on each side, and I will be going back and adding that as well. That'll use up some of the yarn as well. So I feel like she was really trying to showcase, hey, we can use this whole pack you're buying and not have so many leftovers. Next up is a cast on that I cast on after recording with you guys last episode, which was Christmas Eve. And I worked on this a lot while we were in Indiana, in fact. So I am knitting some army socks, is what I'm calling them. My main color is some Knitter's Nightmare Batty sock in the Mules colorway, which is the Army, in reference to the Army. And for cuff, heel, and toe, I am using Leading Men Fiber Arch Showstopper in Sandcastle. And here's where we're at. I'm knitting these on a size 1 US 2.25 millimeter needle. And I am maybe 60 some odd rounds down the foot. I'm going to go to 100 rounds. And I do 80 rounds total down my leg. So this was 15 rounds of 2x2 ribbing, and then 65 rounds of stockinette. I put in a waist yarn to rip out and pick up for the afterthought heel. And then I go to 100 rounds before I do a rounded toe. For the rounded toe, I knit around, decreasing on each corner. Then you knit 3 plain, do a decrease round, knit 2 plain, do a decrease round, knit 1 plain, and then decrease every row. It does give you a bit of a shallower toe. And now that I have gone to actually machine washing most of my socks because I've been very lazy this year, I realize there is a small amount of shrinkage that does happen in your socks because I dry them as well. So I realize I need that little bit of extra room in the length of my foot. And what I do for the heel, for the afterthought heel, is I do the same thing as the rounded toe, but before I start decreasing, I knit 4 rounds plain, and then I do decrease, then 3, then decrease, then 2, so on and so forth. And last but not least, I finished another row on my granny square blanket, so I thought I would show you that. I feel like I've been making such good progress on this. All right, so this was the last one I did. Trying to pick it up right so I can show you the top. Just kidding. I did that when I tried to show it to Andy. I picked up the side rather than the top. So, standing back, here we are. One side, other side. I can't even lift it, it's so high. There we go. I don't want to stretch any farther or I'm going to start showing you some skin. So, yeah, I literally just finished crocheting along the top. So we have this blue here. I think that's our Tranquil colorway. Don't know who this is. Stress Knits, maybe. This is some Black Cat fibers. I think this is ours in Nacho Cheese. Don't know whose that is. I want to say maybe this is Fairy Tale Knits. This is some Regia sock yarn. Or maybe, no, that was Opal, not Regia. I don't know whose that is. Don't know whose that is. I pick up a lot of random mini scans. That's ours in Poseidon. This was a fun Christmas one. That one I thought was really pretty when I added it. This one is really dark, but it has some... It's like it was dyed variegated and then overwashed in black, and it's a different fiber content. Don't know whose it is, but this one was really pretty too. My lighting's kind of thrown out. And this is ours in Electric Avenue. So, it's getting there. I'm at 6, 9, 12 rows, I think. 12 rows of 15, so 150, 180 of my 300. So only 8 more rows to go and it should be good. All right, let's keep moving. In rehearsal, I don't really have anything. I thought about using my random number generator to pick from my stash what I'm going to cast on next after Riverine is done. But I saw Andy expressing some interest this morning about what I was going to cast on, and he actually picked up a kit, but he put it back, so I'm going to let him maybe pick some yarn rather than use the random number generator. That way it's up to Andy and it's completely random. So, all right, spinning. I am still working on the Yarn Geek Fibers Corydale in the Winter Pinoque colorway, which looks like this. I haven't gotten much spinning done. I am probably 2/3 through the first 2 ounces. It's got some rusts, some oranges, some golds, some silver blues, some dark greens, some dark navy blues. It's got a little bit of everything. It's beautiful. So that's my spinning. Nothing too exciting to write home about. So let's move into In the Scene Shop, my other crafting. So my cross-stitching, I really haven't finished another row to show you, but I am working on a Heaven and Earth's design called One for Sorrow. But when I make a little bit more progress on that, I will show that to you. Weaving, I did warp my loom the other day. So I picked up 2 rando one-of-a-kind skeins that we've had laying around. One is in a new collaboration yarn base that we are doing for a collaboration kit. That's a yak sock. We will not be normally carrying that. It's only for this kit. And that's what I used as the warp here. You can see I haven't even tied it off. I got it threaded through the heddle, the reed here, but I have not actually tied it yet, so I will start weaving tonight. And what I'm going to be using for the weft, the back and forth, this was a one-of-a-kind skein we were trying to do for a shop, and it's not going to work out, I don't think, but it's some greens with some kind of pinky red undertones to it. And this is on our showstopper base. So there's that. So I'm going to weave that fingering weight. We did get in a little bit of lace for me to weave with, but Andy's going to do some dyeing eventually when he has some free time to come up with some colors for my next lace weight scarf. All right, moving right along. In the spotlight, what am I watching and reading? So we're still enjoying Schitt's Creek during dinner. Love it. We're in season 2, about halfway. I finished watching season 1 of V Wars on Netflix. I'd give it like 2 stars. I don't recommend it. Will I watch the second season? Maybe. But it's only, again, because I kind of like that vampire genre and it's something to put on while I'm crafting. The writing is really horrible. There is so many holes in the plot, and the acting is only very mediocre. But I did just finish watching what they have on Hulu of the first season of Prodigal Son. That is put out, I believe, through Fox. And I would assume there was 10 episodes, so I'm assuming that they are on mid-season break. Like I said, Andy's friend back from Indianapolis is not an extra. He's a double for one of the main characters on that show, and I know that they've been taping. So I've also been watching some episodes, is what they call them, but really they're standalone 1 hour and 20-minute movies for a Hulu original series called Into the Dark. They release one about every month, and they're usually set during a holiday time period to make it kind of line up with a holiday, but it is not necessarily about that holiday. Some of them are, but they're set to the kind of horror, suspense, scary genre, and I've watched a couple of them. The newest one was about New Year's, and it was called Midnight Kiss, about a group of gay gentlemen who are friends, and their one friend who's a girl, and they go to this house every year, and murder ensues. Last night I watched one from Halloween, maybe 2 years ago. They've only been doing this, they're in their second year of doing season 2, called The Body. It's based on a hitman who pretty much is dragging around a body all evening, and everybody thinks it's a costume, and how things go awry. There's one called Puka, which is about a crazy toy / mascot, and this guy kind of goes crazy. That was last Christmas's. The Pilgrim was this year's Thanksgiving. That was kind of gruesome, but kind of fun for the ride. And then there was a holiday-ish one that was about coworkers and work. That was pretty good. Andy watches some of them with me, but we did watch a, I think it's HBO miniseries called Chernobyl. It is being nominated for a bunch of awards. It was very, very good. It was 5 episodes, about an hour-ish each. I was very, very young when Chernobyl happened. In fact, I was under a year old when Chernobyl had happened, and so I didn't know much about it. As I got older, I had seen, really B-rated scary horror movies based in Chernobyl. There was a movie several years ago, which was kind of the first time that I had really heard that this was a thing. But this delves a lot more into what actually happened and how things went down, and how the Soviet Union was involved in how things progressed, and very, very good. I highly recommend it. I did not want to actually watch it, and Andy watched the first 2 episodes and was like, no, really, you should watch them, and then we can watch the rest together. And I was glad that he insisted on that. So, in terms of reading, I finished listening to a series of short stories today. It was part of the Audible's originals free, I think, from last month. It's called The Conception of Terror by M.R. James. It is volume 1. It is where they have dramatized 4 of his short stories. They've also modernized them. I really, really enjoyed this. Looking over reviews, people either really liked it or they really hated it. I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed the radio play aspect of it. I thought it added a lot to it. I'm horrible for being a former English teacher about giving book reviews. The first story is about what was that one about? Oh, about a death curse that was given to a reviewer of, an academic reviewer, and she was reviewing this man's work on mysticism, and he ends up putting a death curse on her. Her husband then realizes, while he's trying to play it off as nothing's wrong, when things go awry, he realizes that there might be some more truth to it than one might think, and so he kind of has to take things into his own hands. The next one is about a young girl who is in foster care, and she's been in a series of bad foster situations, and so she eventually gets placed with an older woman in a high-rise apartment complex, which houses mostly higher-end, middle-aged to elderly population, and that she soon realizes, while everyone is super nice, they are a very close-knit community. And that, there are really no children on the premises, and those that were there have oddly disappeared. And so she soon then realizes that maybe something sinister is at play. And the third one was about, what was that? That was this morning. I'm trying to remember. What was the third one? Oh, the third one was about a school, and these all take place in England. A boarding school, a boys' boarding school in England, and there was a professor there in the 70s and 80s who would do this what's the word I'm looking at? Extravagant treasure hunts right before the winter break with a certain grade of boys, and as years went on, there was rumors spread about him and things like that. But there was also rumors spread about him not only with the boys, but also his wealth. And so there's kind of this treasure hunt for his wealth, and they get this new head of history department, and it's a female. And one of the boys who attended school in the 70s comes back to do a eulogy for the professor who has died, who's the rumored one. And so the new head of history, the female, and the former student kind of joined forces to go find this treasure, and the treasure is not always gold. So the last one is about two parents who are grieving over the loss of their young son that has happened in the last 6 months, and he was involved in an automobile accident while he was on his bike. And so the two parents have decided to get out of the big city of London and go to a small town to go hiking and stay kind of in a B&B. And it's only been 6 months since their son has passed. And while they're hiking, they see the ruins of an old not a church. It starts with an A. Abbot, maybe, is the word they use. And then when they came back to the hotel, everyone's like, "Oh, you should stay away from there. You know, it's a bad place." Da 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 da. And the mother then wants to keep pursuing this, going in search of this place and trying to connect with it, because she feels like she's going to then connect with her lost son, whereas the father feels like he will be haunted by whatever is awry there. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It's a quick listen. It's just over 4 hours. Each story is about an hour long. So while I don't always partake in the free Audible originals, they are there for free, so you might as well take advantage of them. This month, there was nothing that interested me. So, if Andy gets on there, we do share our Audible. Maybe he'll download some stuff. But there's a couple of other short ones that I do have in my library, but I think I'm going to look for a new book to start tomorrow. I did set a reading challenge for myself on Goodreads. I set a challenge of 26 books. I figured that's one book every 2 weeks. I just need to force myself to actually do more listening at work. Like I said, I'm the type of person who can go all day without talking to anyone and no noise, because I have so much going on in my head at all times that I am constantly in my head, and I don't need outside noise to distract me. So sometimes it's a challenge to force myself to put earbuds in anymore. But I have bought some. Finally, I think I have the earbuds that I like, but they don't last very long. I have true wireless, like the earbuds, but they're a cheaper version. Instagram ad got me. I think they're called Glow Pods, and they're like $25. They do take 2 to 3 weeks to arrive. I think they come from Australia, but so far they've done really well for me, and they don't last but 3 to 4 hours. But one trick my sister told me that a lot of people do is they put one earbud in and then switch out for the other one. But and they're touch sensor, so no cords and no. I've tried the over-the-ear ones that Andy has, my original ones, which fit better than I tried to get replacement ones, but they push my earbuds onto the glasses too much, or not my earbuds, but my actual ears onto my glasses, and so it gets a little annoying to be wearing them all day. All right, let's go into stash enhancement. So I have 3 vendors to highlight this episode, and I still have tons of purchases that I did. But the first vendor I want to highlight, I have 2 acquisitions from. One was I think I actually caught an update of hers, and she was generous enough to be a sponsor of the Knitting at the Estate retreat, and so I placed an order with her. And I got some yarn for Mandy as well. And then she was super kind and ended up gifting it to me because we were next door neighbors at the India Entangled, which is the Rhinebeck Trund show. And she asked if we would be willing to spare some gridwall and hooks and things like that. And so we said we were bringing it anyway for staff. So we had extra. So we let her use some of our stuff, and so she was super nice and gifted me a skein, and then I also picked up a skein from her at India Entangled, and again, she was more than gracious and gifted this to me. And that would be Stacy of Mustache Yarns. I had the pleasure of meeting Stacy previously when we both vended at a Super Summer Knit Together retreat in Nashville. And we got to talk one day before we were setting up for the retreat. And so it was really great to catch up with her again in New York. The first skein that I picked up from her is part of her summer concert tour series, which I have another skein of hers from that series. But this is Woodstock 50, and this is a one-of-a-kind because I think she said she messed up the striping, which I wasn't getting it for the Woodstock reference, which is I think each color represents a band that played in Woodstock, but it's supposed to go in the order that they actually played the concert series, and it's, of course, was the 50th anniversary last year. This is her perfect self-striping sock. In the must-match skeins, it's 2 identical skeins twisted together on her 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 460 yards, again in the Woodstock 50 colorway. And I forget how many stripes there were in this, like 18 or 22, something crazy. And yeah, there's some pinks and fuchsias, but I'm totally going to wear them. And then while I was at Indian Tangled, she had a few of these jumbo skeins that are built for her pattern that she collaborated with Stephanie Lotvin, Telly Bean Knits, for the sock arm sweater, which has been a huge hit. The sock arm sweater has been for adults as well as little ones. It's been done in worsted and now fingering weight. And I saw this and she only had one skein and I said, can you put that away for me? And so she put it away for me for all of Indian Tangled, which she sold out of most everything she had. But this is her sweater weather merino worsted in the Bohemian colorway, which is a must-match set to do the arms on a sock arm sweater. It is 100% superwash merino worsted, 275 yards per single skein, so 550 yards total, and it looks like this. And I liked it because it looked a little richer and deeper toned, not so vibrant, as this is actually what's in the original sock arm sweater with a purple body. I am actually probably going to do either like our fortune teller colorway, or I might do London Fog, or who knows, I might go a little brighter. I'm not sure yet what exactly, but I think I am going to do the sock arms sweater or some variation along those lines when I get around to it. So these are my 2 acquisitions from Mustache Yarns. My next yarn acquisition, came from when we were vending at Stitches Salt Lake, which is unfortunately not happening again. I don't think we would have returned this year, but they couldn't agree on a date with the venue, so we'll see where the next Stitches pops up, their new one. The first skein, yes, there's a couple, came from, all the yarn is from Hole in the Wool. Never heard of them. They are from pretty much local to Salt Lake, of one of the suburbs, and they were right next to us, and they put up this beautiful display, and Andy found this pattern and yarn and colorway and loved it, and he bought it on preview night, which buying yarn is against Andy's rule, but buying yarn other than Sunday, let alone preview night, is completely against his rules. But he loved this skein so much. This is, again, Hole in the Wool on their Grand Bulky, which is 100% superwash merino, 106 yards to 100 grams in the Regency colorway. And it's kind of this dark, rich blue moving into green, teal colorway. And we picked up one of the patterns she had in her booth for a hat. He liked this hat, and it is designed by the dyer of Hole in the Wool, who is Alicia Goebel, and it is called the Lake Ridge hat, which is a cabled hat. So Andy wants me to knit this up for him real quick. I considered briefly knitting this for him for Christmas, but then I was like, well, then he knows if he makes a request, I'm going to give in all the time, so I can't be that nice. But, so this skein is going to be this hat. Then, throughout the weekend, I was oohing and ahhing all of her colors because I liked almost all of them. And just next to her was a local yarn store that carries her yarn. So they were kind of, their booths were kind of melding into one another. And there was a shawl called the Arcade Shawl, which is done with all slip stitches and almost has a plaid effect. And they had a kit for it out of Greenwood Fiber Arts or something like that, who I've met before, but I haven't supported her personally. And I was like, you know what? I get the local yarn store aspect, but if I'm going to buy the kit, I feel like I should have supported Greenwood personally first. So I decided to get some yarn from Hole in the Wool to knit this arcade shawl. And you need 2 skeins of a main color and 1 skein of a contrasting color. And they do need to contrast pretty well to show off that kind of mosaic plaid texture. So I picked up these 2 skeins of her Charm Sock in the Stonehouse colorway. This is 463 yards of a 75-25, so just like our showstopper. But this is such a layered dark gray. It has copper undertones to it, as well as like navy blue undertones, and you're not going to be able... Oh, there you go. There's such richness to this. It's so layered and beautiful. So this is the main color that I picked up. And then I hemmed and hawed going a lot of different ways, but I picked up a skein of Forest Floor on the same yarn base to go with it. And this is kind of a gold with hints and speckles of like orange and saffron in it and green to it. So I thought that this would play really well and be really, really pretty. So I got 3 skeins of that. So we got 4 skeins of Hole in the Wool. I did trade for these, I should say. But really liked her stuff, and I went kind of hog wild because I hope to see her on the road again, but I don't know if we'll ever get to Utah again. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see her in person again, and they're so pretty. And so there's that. So those are the 2 yarn dyers I wanted to focus on this episode. The non-yarn dyer, well, he actually is a yarn dyer, but I did not buy yarn from him. At Fiber in the Burrow, I got a project bag from Rick at Whimsy Stitches, and this is the Wild Pack Camping Club fabric. Totally thought this was cute and had to have it. This is housing my adventuring wrap in it with all the yarn, and Rick does a really nice job. He does several different types of bags. He also dyes yarn now. But I love the richness of it with all the woodland creatures. It's vibrant. Most woodland creatures is deep and rich and woody toned, but the green was so neon, it just caught me. And it's got a raccoon there with binoculars. It's got a fox catching butterflies. It's got a bear doing archery. And then I thought there was one other thing. No, maybe not. There's some mushrooms. Anyway, yeah. So I also got a bag from Rick, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But this is a clear vinyl, one of his clear vinyl bags. But this is a collaborative bag. So I got one of these today because I had to work with a customer. But we ended up with one extra bag, so I got it. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that in just a minute. Okay, so let's keep moving because I can feel my blood sugar crashing, and so I need to get done so I don't start going all crazy. I know I could pause and like eat something. I don't have any candy on my desk, which usually I do for that. Yay for being a type 2 diabetic. Anyway, we have a giveaway this episode, and we are going to give away a copy of the book Socks, Socks, Socks. Make sure to pronounce that so something else doesn't slip out. And this is put out by, is it Interweave? I thought it was Interweave. Knitters Magazine. So it's 70 winning patterns from Knitters Magazine contest. I think it is a little bit older. 64 knitters, 70 socks, and it was published in 1999. But there's 70 different sock patterns in here. All different color work and directional socks. So we're going to do a giveaway for this book that was graciously donated to the podcast, so thank you so much. To be entered for this drawing of this book, you do need to be a member of the Dramatic Knits video podcast group on Ravelry, and you do need to answer the prompt that is in the appropriate thread, which will be on the Ravelry group by the time this goes out. And the prompt for this book is, what's the most amazing place in nature you've ever been? And that doesn't need to be some national park or thing like that. It could be your backyard. It could be anything. And if you can put a photo, even better. Doesn't give you better odds to win, but we'd love to share in that experience if possible. For me, the most amazing place in nature that I've ever been has to be Antelope Canyon in Arizona. We got to go on a photo tour of that, and if you've never seen Antelope Canyon or pictures of how the sunlight and sand works in that canyon, you really, really should Google it. I saw it pop up on a Travel Channel episode of something, and when we were looking for a vacation years ago, I said, why don't we try this? And it was one of the best experiences of my life. So highly recommend Antelope Canyon. And do try to find a smaller private tour. It can seem a little sketchy because the one we did, we just had to call a phone number and give a credit card number to hold our spot. And we met by a mile marker on the side of the road, and off we went. But it was a much better experience than the tours we ran into that were big group tours and just loud and things like that. So, all right, moving right along inside the Knitter Studio. This is the Q&A portion of the episode. We have a question and answer thread in our Ravelry group where you can ask me anything, whether it be knitting or crafting related or personal, within reason. I will answer them in the order that they appear. I'm not sure how many more questions we have, so we may not have one next episode until people ask me more questions. So go over there, ask some questions. I like to ask you all questions for, the weekly or episode contest. So, yeah, I like it. It gives me more of a conversation to have with viewers rather than just me always talking at you. So this episode's question comes from Knit Takes Two, and it said, if you had to choose just one colorway, which one would be your favorite of the ones you've dyed so far? And are there any colorways you would love to carry but haven't tried yet? So I would have to say one of my favorites is Independent Will. I've knit my Rhinebeck sweater 2 years ago out of that colorway. But more specifically, that particular, what I call my massage speckle technique, is my favorite of our colorways. I just love the way that that dye technique works out. And when you see those colors from far away, they look like a shaded one-tone color, like a tonal color. But then when you get up close, most of the time you can see all these intricacies of layers of colors that have been speckled and massaged out to provide you the color that it is. In terms of what colorways I'd love to carry but haven't tried yet, it's more of a line of colorways than specific colors. I've always wanted to do a Leading Men series, and it's something we've tossed around, but as the business has grown, we've gone in so many other directions of things, and I haven't been able to give that the time that I want or feel that it deserves. I've had other ideas of lines to carry throughout like a year for our year in review. Again, I would love to take like one color and make it for one of the leading men of the silver screen and TV. And the one I did have, well, I have Old Blue Eyes, which is based off of Sinatra. But we used to carry a color called Jean, which was a Kelly green, and it was based off of Jane Kelly. But it wasn't a huge seller, so we kind of discontinued it. I don't know. We may bring it back at some point. But I would love to create some more variegated colors that are based off of maybe movie posters of some leading men, especially, older movies, but newer movies. I've thought about going through past Academy Award winners. Yeah, so a lot, kind of tossing around in my head in that respect. But yeah, so that's kind of answers your question. All right, let's move into a round of applause. So last episode, we were giving away a accessory pouch from Stunning String Studio that I actually was given as a participation prize on the Christy Class Knits Rhinebeck sweater video this year. And I figured I'd pass it along to you all. So it's the accessory pouch. It includes a set of stitch markers, 2 mini skeins, a pen, and information about Stunning String, which is a wonderful company and wonderful couple that spearheads Stunning String. They are out of Illinois, and they actually opened up their own yarn store studio this past year. So last episode, the prompt was, how much do you plan or prepare for the future as we were coming into the new year? I thought it was an appropriate prompt. Random number generator chose number 27, who is Sparky136, and that is Patsy from Alabama. So congratulations, Patsy. She said, I am a planner. I like to have a basic timeline, but I'm flexible about it. And I feel like that's one thing that I lack, is the flexibility. And I'm sure Andy, who's in the kitchen right now, is going, yes, you lack flexibility. Once I get something set in my head, that is the way it is, and it's the way it needs to be. So, again, things I need to work on, but slow but steady progress. All right, so we've gone into the new year, which means December has come to a close. Our December Race to the Finished Object contest is also closed, and so I drew for winners for that. We had over 200, about 250 entries this month, which is always a popular month with holiday gifts and the whatnot. So the first is a physical prize, and that prize is 2 skeins of Debbie Blish Baby Cash Merino. It's an extra fine merino wool and cashmere, 55% wool, 33% acrylic, 12% cashmere. There are 125 meters in each 50-gram ball. You get a total of 100 grams. And the winner of that is number 41, whose DPN's for now. That's Jan out of Iowa. So congratulations, Jan. Both Jan and Patsy and any other winners, if you would please, email me, Dramatic Knits, on Ravelry with your first and last name, mailing address, and email address so I can provide you with tracking. I would greatly appreciate it. But congratulations, Jan. Jan knit a Jason's Cashmere hat, which is a cabled hat. And so how fitting that she's getting a little bit of cashmere back. And I did pick this to kind of go with her favorite color of burgundy. So, all right, we have a pattern from our featured designer, who is Jessica Brist of Snickerdoodle Knits. And the winner of one of her patterns is number 31, who is Jennifer Enns, who is Jennifer out of Manitoba, Canada. And Jennifer knit a pair of socks. In fact, it was pair number 77 out of all of her socks of 2019. That was pair number 77 she entered. That is quite amazing. Jennifer, you get any one of Jessica's patterns on Ravelry that she can gift to you. She just released a collection of shawl patterns for New Year's resolutions, one of which features Leading Men Fiber Arch DK, our dramaturg base, 3 skeins. That one is the Endurance shawl. But you can pick any one of Jessica's patterns, and she will gift that to you. Jennifer, if you would please, again, private message me on Ravelry with which one of Jessica's patterns you would like. I'll let Jessica know, and she will gift you the pattern. We do have the January 2020 Race to the Finished Object contest open. And we will have a prize again, as well as a pattern from our featured designer, Jessica Brist. This is Jessica's last month being featured, and then I believe we do have another featured designer lined up after that. I have to verify that. I'm a little foggy. I have to go back through my emails. That being said, we are hosting a Snickerdoodles Knits knit-along that runs from November 1st through January 31st. You can knit any of Jessica's patterns. Each FO gets you an entry into the drawing. We did have a couple more participants in December. Each month I will pull for a winner, and then at the end we will have kind of a bigger prize. So we did a winner in November. December's winner, randomly selected by random number generator, was number 17, who is Kolvika, and that is Kim out of Chicago. I'm good friends with Kim. Kim is one of my amazing sample knitters, and she knit one of Jessica's My Favorite Simple Knit hat patterns. And so, Kim, you are winning. I don't want to burp in your guys' ears. You are winning 2 skeins of Knit Picks Carpetta in the black colorway. This, I believe, is a fingering weight. 80% superfine wool, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, total of 460 yards. So, Kim, I know you'll put this to good use, whether you're doing maybe charity mittens for Kate this year, or charity hats, or what have you. I know you will find a good use. And black is one of your favorite colors. So, there you go. Kim, I know you'll watch this, and I'll get that out in the mail to you this week. So, all right. Reminders. I do have unclaimed prizes. So it seems people are not watching the episodes as much as they used to, which I get. I let podcasts go on the wayside, but I also want people to watch the episodes to win the prizes that I am giving away and that I am funding and shipping. Reminder, last episode we were giving away a holiday sock set, a elf sock set from Stitch Naughty, and the winner of this was number 43, Cheryl730. That's Cheryl from Ohio. Cheryl, you have until next time I podcast in about 2 weeks to claim this prize, or I will draw again to see who is a winner. So Cheryl, again, private message me on Ravelry, Dramatic Knits, and give me your mailing info, including your email address, so I can get that out to you. The episode before that, Cindy at Stitch Naughty was gracious enough to give us 2 other skeins to give away together as a 2-skein giveaway. The winner of this did not get in contact with me in 4 weeks, so I drew again from the prize thread for this. And the new winner of this is number 30, who is Carlene Page, and that's Carlene from Virginia. So Carlene, please get in contact with me. Congratulations. Dramatic Knits on Ravelry with your first and last name and mailing address and email address, and I'll get this out to you as soon as I can. And I think that's it in terms of prizes. I did have put a prize back into the prize pool because it was never claimed by the second winner, and I was like, just put it back in there. Let's move into center stage, all things leading men fiber arts. Oh my gosh, I'm over an hour. I ramble sometimes. It is a new year, which means we have our year in review sets up on the website. So I'm going to show you our mini skein sets for 2019. We do have full skein sets available. We did have 4 of them, which comes with 12 full skeins of each color that we dyed for 2019. Comes with no accoutrement, no bag, no goodies, nothing. But it is priced that if you buy all 12 together, it is priced as if you bought 11 and you get 1 free. So that's kind of the incentive of buying that. We do have 1 ready to go to be shipped. After that, it will be a pre-order up to 2 weeks to take to get out to you. But our mini skein set looks like this. We collaborated with 2 wonderful makers to put this together. So in there, you can see you get 12 mini skeins, each labeled with their colorway. Those are the new colors we dyed in 2019. They are housed in one of Rick from Whimsy Stitches clear vinyl project bags. I picked out the fabric specifically for this collaboration, so these are not bags that he is going to carry in his shop himself. So this comes with a black linen, and then at the top portion is a mock cork fabric. So it is not cork. It is just, I think, a cotton, but it's to look like a cork fabric. It has a gold to match the gold in the cork. Nylon cord. You do have a black linen handle that can be removed or attached. And up here you have a nice picture of us on the road, and then all the colors that premiered in what month. On the back, we have our collaborators. So right there is Rick and a little write-up about him. And then we worked with one of our favorite designers, Sarah Abram of Sarah Bear Crafts. She's out of Chicago, and there's a little write-up of her. But she wanted to design a pattern specifically for this year's mini skein collection. So she released Playbill, which is designed to use all 12 skeins of our mini skeins with no leftovers, really. And so if you purchase the kit, you also get a coupon code for a free download of that shawl. So if you were like, well, I want those minis, that looks like so much fun, but what can I do with them? Well, you can use this. Do this pattern. And Sarah is going to be hosting a knit along for Playbill in her Ravelry group starting January 14th, and there will be prizes from several different yarn dyers, including myself. I will be gifting a gift certificate for that knit along, but I wanted Sarah to get some of the attention, so I'm letting her host the knit along for this in her group. But that's the year in review kits. They are going steadily. We had 100 to start out with. I think there are 60-ish left, and they're a flat $100, and then your shipping is calculated based on where you are. Our new website does real-time shipping, so works out much better for us and you, so that it's accurately weighted and you don't overpay. All right. Speaking of knit-alongs, Leading Men Fiber Arts is hosting 2 knit-alongs right now. The That's My Jam knit-along is the wrap that I released last month using 2 full skeins as well as a 6-pack gradient and beads. There are kits for That's My Jam in the shop. However, on the Ravelry group for Leading Men Fiber Arts, I did, in the knit-along thread for That's My Jam, I do give a coupon code for purchasing Showstopper and gradients in our online store. So if you're interested in that, to kind of help you get the yarn you need for your knit-along. The knit-along runs January 1st through February 29th. You do not have to use all Leading Men Fiber Arts. However, some portion of your project needs to be in Leading Men Fiber Arts, and it needs to be documented on your pattern page for the your project page for the pattern. There is a Chatter and FO thread. It's all in one thread. I will pull a winner from there. The grand prize will be a $50 gift certificate to our online store. We are also hosting a knit-along for the Endurance Shawl. That is the new shawl that came out by Jessica Brist. That uses 3 skeins of our Dramaturg DK weight base. And she has done a wonderful job of curating color combos that would work really well. You can find those on her Instagram feed. She's doing knit along, but we're doing one in the Leading Men Fiber Arts group from January 1st through, again, February 29th. I do provide a coupon code there for DK in our shop to help you purchase yarn. Again, not all yarn needs to be Leading Men Fiber Arts, but one of the 3 yarns needs to be it to qualify, and the grand prize will be a $25 or $50 gift certificate to the shop again. So we're currently hosting 2. We'll see what we start in February. We are going to be focusing knit-alongs going forth with designers that we collaborate with. So if we provide yarn support for a design, we will most likely be hosting a knit-along for it in the Leading Men Fiber Arts Ravelry group. And we're doing that to not only get people to use more yarn that they stash, but also to knit some of these new projects that are coming out, and of course to build our population and camaraderie in the Leading Men Fiber Arts Ravelry group. So if you haven't joined that group, go on over there. You do need to be a member of the group in order to be eligible to win, so you can't just post an FO, you do have to be a member of the group as well. All right, last but not least, let's talk about upcoming events. I do want to talk to you about shipped trunk shows. So one of the things we've really been working on in 2019 and moving forward is having trunk shows out that we ship to yarn stores. And while it's not our full expanse that we bring to when we are in person, it does allow people all over the country to experience our yarns and bring in stuff for a limited time. So I wanted to make sure I announce that. I feel like I've been lacking that last year, so that if you're local to any of these areas, you can go check out our yarns while they're local to you. So currently we have a trunk show out at A Piece of You in Bay City, Michigan. And that trunk show will be there through January 13th. So if you are within driving distance of Bay City, Michigan, go check out A Piece of You and, of course, our trunk show and go show them some support. Then coming in January, we will have a trunk show at the Modern Skein in Montgomery, Texas. We had the pleasure of meeting the owner of the Modern Skein at the East Texas Fiber Festival, and we had dinner with her and her husband, who is the dyer behind Red Stag Fibers. And she will be hosting a trunk show from us from January 18th through February 1st. And she's really focusing on our non-superwash yarns. So go and check out her store. If you are local and you've not been out there, she has a ton of indie dyers from overseas that you cannot easily get here in the US. Upcoming shows in person before I see you again. Next episode will be a day or two late. It'll either be out on Monday or Tuesday. Andy and I will be driving down to Joplin, Missouri. We were asked last year in the summer to come to the Fiber Folks of Southwest Missouri Guild meeting. And while we had to reschedule, we will be at their guild meeting on January 19th at 2 p.m. In Joplin, Missouri. We will be bringing a small assortment of yarn to sell to folks there at the meeting before and after the meeting. And I will be presenting a Q&A session about how Leading Men Fiber Arts got started and our business, and doing a Q&A session. So if you are close to Joplin, I highly recommend you check out Google or click on the link in our show notes at dramaticknits.com for the Fiber Folks of Southwest Missouri. The acronym is FFSMO, I think. FFSMO, I believe, is the acronym. But anyway, they were gracious enough to invite us to come down, so we are taking the car and we are just going to drive down there. We're going to drive down there on Sunday morning, present, sell, and then stay Sunday night and drive back on Monday. So that is what all I have in person, but then we will be picking things back up, and I will be excited to talk to you about more upcoming events when I see you again in just over 2 weeks. So as always, you can find the podcast on YouTube, as well as our Ravelry group, and of course, always at dramatickknits.com. If you are not already following our Instagram account for Leading Men Fiber Arts or our Facebook group, those are the first and foremost places to stay up to date with what's going on there. And I'm going to go because I'm starving. And again, I do not want to crash, and I feel like I'm that close. So until I see you in just over 2 weeks, I hope you knit something dramatic.